Hello everyone, my name is Byron and this is Flutter News. This is a new show where I compile articles and videos and news just about Flutter and the community for the past week and put it all together in one video and present it to you here. This is the first episode, so if you have any feedback, please put them in the comments. If you have any suggestions for things that you would like to see here, you can find me on Twitter at BQMckay or just tag it with hashtag Flutter News. Today we're going to talk a little bit about Google I/O, which is coming up here soon, managing business logic in Flutter, should I learn Dart before Flutter, an amazing milestone that Flutter has hit just this last week. At the end of each episode, I'll also share a little funny tidbit that I found last week. So let's get into it. So the biggest news from last week is Google I/O announced the scheduling for the conference, and Flutter's got over a dozen sessions that you can go to. I'd strongly recommend going through and looking through which ones you might be interested in. Just a little friendly note, make sure that if there's any sessions that say specifically what region they're for, make sure you follow that. Make sure you're not in the US and you're signing up for the conference session that's meant for Asia, because the time is just going to be way off. Your session will start when you're in bed sleeping at night. But there are lots of sessions here. There's Ask Me Anythings, there's workshops, and a lot of great stuff is going to come out. As far as what I expect to come out, I don't really have any real expectations, to be honest. There is one thing that the product manager for Flutter, Chris Sells, said back in, I think, January. He said, in this release, we're pleased to announce that Flutter's desktop support is available in a stable channel under an early release flag. What this means is that we're ready to give it a try as a deployment target for your Flutter apps. You can think of this as a beta snapshot that previews the final stable release coming later this year. Does that mean that maybe here at this conference, we're going to see that beta flag removed so we get the stable release flag now? I'd probably say not, but that's, if there's anything that I could predict that would happen at this conference, that might be the one thing. The next thing I want to talk about is this article by Luke Urban, which is how to better manage business logic in your Flutter app. So this topic is interesting because he talks about, should you do a monorepo where you have one big repo for all the different targets that you're trying to hit, or should you break it up? And he goes through and kind of gives you the pros and cons, and basically comes down to every situation is unique, and you have to consider various aspects of it. But the thing I really like about this article is why he wrote this article. He wrote this because someone used another one of his articles for the past to say how you must build a Flutter app in a monorepo, and he wrote this article to debunk that and clarify his opinion. And I like his points, and I like that he came back to clarify and defend his original post and say, no, that's not what I said. What I meant to say was this. I think this is great because sometimes as developers, and I've done this before, we get into, well, this is the solution that we've always done, or this is what one guy said in a tweet, and when we take that a mile and say this must be the way it is, and Luke is clearly saying, no, that's not the case. Pump the brakes. So here's an article from Mohammed Hamza called Should I Learn Dart Before Flutter? Short and sweet, but if you're new to programming and you want to start with Flutter, you may want to read this. I agree with what he says about your coding background and how it makes a difference in determining if you need to learn Dart separately before you learn Flutter. But even if you're an experienced developer, this could just be a good reminder to help you decide if you need to learn Dart separately or not, and the advantages that come with that. So last week, the Flutter repo crossed a milestone, and GitHub Tracker here announced that the Flutter repo just crossed 120,000 stars on GitHub. That is a big number. I don't know if that really means anything as far as how much Flutter is growing. I mean, a lot of people star a lot of things, but that is just such a huge number. And just as a reference point, the Swift repository has just under 56,000 stars. And I know that's not a fair comparison, but it does give you at least some reference point to how big that number is. And this just made me laugh out loud. This is from Jamiu, using Android native after trying out Flutter. And there's the kid just going, what did you just give me? And as an Android developer, that's what I first did when I started my career I was doing Android, and then I went to iOS, and I thought, wow, iOS has a lot of things that I wish Android did, and vice versa. Android had things that I really wish iOS had. But then Flutter came, and this is how I felt about Flutter too, even compared to iOS. I just thought, wow, this is pretty slick. So great job, Jemu. Love this. Well played. So that is the first episode of Flutter News. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you've got anything you want to see on the show, go to Twitter, tweet it there with hashtag Flutter News, and you can see your stuff on this show. You can also find me at BQMckay, and I will see you next week.